She didn't argue. She didn't even flinch. The hot coffee soaked her sweater, dripping onto her lap as the officer stared at her with disgust. The cafe fell silent. Everyone saw it, but no one spoke. The officer laughed under his breath. But what he didn't know was that the quiet black woman he just humiliated had raised the one person who would make him pay for it, in the most unexpected way. Celeste Monroe wasn't a loud woman. She didn't storm into places or demand attention. At 58, she moved with the grace of someone who had weathered storms and learned how to stand tall in silence. That morning, she sat in a cozy cafe on the corner of Oak and 7th, just blocks from the courthouse. She wore a soft gray cardigan, glasses perched on her nose, quietly sipping her tea and rereading her son's first newspaper interview, framed neatly in her purse. Across the cafe, Officer Jake Rollins walked in, tall, broad, mid-40s, with a reputation that made people uncomfortable. Not for heroics, but for how he looked at people like Celeste, like they didn't belong. Jake stood in line behind Celeste, growing impatient as she asked the barista about tea blends. He muttered under his breath, "Should have just gone to McDonald's." She didn't respond. Jake stepped forward aggressively, intentionally bumping into her and spilling his coffee, directly onto Celeste's lap. Gasps echoed in the cafe. Celeste looked down at the spreading stain, looked up into his eyes. He didn't apologize. Instead, he smirked. Oops. The barista froze. A college student pulled out her phone. A mother nearby ushered her child away. And still, Celeste said nothing. She quietly picked up a napkin, dabbed her skirt, and stood. "I'll be fine," she said softly. Jake leaned in, mocking. "No need to get all emotional. I'm sure you people are used to heat." That's when someone in the cafe finally stepped forward. A young man in a suit, holding a laptop bag, walked up to Celeste. "Ma'am," he said, "would you like me to call someone for you?" Celeste smiled at him, eyes kind but unreadable. "No need," she said. "I raised someone who handles things." She walked out of the cafe without another word, leaving Jake chuckling and the room full of guilt-stricken silence. What Jake didn't know, that quiet black woman was the mother of District Attorney Xavier Monroe, the youngest and most hard-hitting prosecutor in the state. 3 days later, Officer Jake Rollins was called to testify in a courtroom. He walked in, smug and confident, like he always did. He'd been here dozens of times. Same judge, same lawyers, same small-town politics. He never worried, until the new DA entered the courtroom. Xavier Monroe, 35, sharp gray suit, fearless eyes, and a silent storm brewing inside him. He didn't even glance at Jake at first, but when he stood to deliver his opening statement on a different case involving racial profiling, he turned to the jury and said, 3 days ago, a decorated police officer humiliated an innocent black woman in a public space. She didn't press charges. She didn't retaliate. But that doesn't mean she was powerless. The courtroom shifted. Jake blinked, recognizing the words, the voice. Xavier turned and locked eyes with him. "Because that woman is my mother." Gasps filled the room. The judge tried to gavel order, but it was too late. The city had heard the story, and within hours, video footage from the cafe had gone viral, thanks to the student who uploaded it after recognizing Celeste from the courtroom buzz. Within 48 hours, Jake Rollins was placed on administrative leave. Internal Affairs reopened multiple complaints filed against him over the last decade, many previously ignored. But now, with public pressure mounting, they couldn't be swept under the rug. Meanwhile, Celeste continued her quiet life, now with people stopping her on the street to thank her for raising someone who fights back the right way. In a city once silenced by fear, people began to speak. Black business owners formed a legal defense fund. Xavier launched a community initiative for racial justice. And Celeste, she just smiled, because her son didn't need to shout to be heard. And as for Jake, he watched from his living room, unemployed, as the DA who dismantled his career stood on a stage, arm around his mother, saying, "You can try to humiliate a black woman, but if you do, you better pray she didn't raise someone who knows the law better than you ever will. Respect everyone, because the quietest soul might raise the loudest truth." Movie Camera subscribe to Equality Unbound for more eye-opening stories that shine a light on injustice and celebrate the strength of those who rise above it.